Hello, everybody. It's been a while since I've been back, and yes, I'm going to be posting this video on my original YouTube channel. So it's been a while since I've seen you guys. I've cut my hair since the last time I've seen you guys, and I made a video for this channel. And a lot has happened since then, so I want to just get into that. But before I get into that, I want you guys to know that this is going to be a part 2 to my homosexuality video. So if you haven't watched that video, go check out that video, because this is going to be a part 2 to how I was delivered from homosexuality. And that video not only speaks on my testimony, but it just speaks on to many stories. And this part 2 is just to kind of go into detail a little bit more about them stories, just kind of expressing those stories, but also talking about other things within, being and living my life as a homosexual person, like demonic roles, demonic personalities, patterns that I've noticed, and just many things that have also influenced my life in a very crazy and negative way while I was a homosexual person. So like, what was the kind of things I was doing, watching, saying, how did I live my life as a homosexual person before I was delivered from that lifestyle? So we're going to get a little bit into that, and I'm going to be mentioning a lot of things that I'm going to be making separate videos about, like pornographic comics and cartoons and anime, all kind of stuff that I'm going to be making another video about, or other videos about. So I might not cover everything, but I just kind of want to get into things that I noticed within being a homosexual person and just the way I live my life and kind of testify about that. I also want to get into just some scripture, like on what marriage is supposed to be like, what God said about homosexuality, what God said about transgenderism, and talk to you guys not only about the plans that I'm going to be having moving forward, but also just let you guys know that I'm about to start an expose. So I'm going to be having an expose here on this channel, and I'm going to be having an expose on TikTok. So I'm probably going to make TikTok videos and then just post them on YouTube as well. But basically, I'm going to be doing an expose, exposing a lot of the things that I've been into, like anime, cartoons, comic books, certain cultural norms that are actually truthfully demonic, or even sayings and just all kind of stuff that I could get into that's demonic, that's witchcraft. I'm going to be making an expose on those things. So without further ado, let's get back into the homosexuality topic and just my lifestyle. So the first thing I want to talk about, and I have some notes, the first thing I want to talk about is destructive personalities. So as a homosexual person, there were a lot of personality traits that I used to carry, because for me, being a homosexual was like my whole identity, and it may or may not be the same for many people who still claim to be in that lifestyle, but it really does become like your life is centered around that sexuality, centered around just the fact that you are literally living a sort of way. And you, like, if you are a man who likes other men, it's like your life is just being aligned with that, and just that is like the center of everything. And it, for some, it becomes their whole personality. It is what gets them into a lot of demonic patterns and just all kind of things that I want to talk about. So like for me, being a homosexual person, like certain personalities I always noticed was, one, I had to ask myself, like, what kind of men do I even like? Like, am I supposed to be dating older men? What does it mean to date older men? Like stuff like that. Because there are some people who like have no problem dating men maybe triple their age, or dating younger men. And me personally, when I was living that sort of lifestyle, I personally have never dealt with wanting to date younger men or men younger than me. In fact, I just thought that was still, it's a problem, right? Like, I just thought that was really weird. Obviously, I have never struggled with perversion such as like pedophilia. No, sir. But I will say that for those who have struggled with that, it's a very perverse spirit. And I personally never have struggled with pedophilia, but I have struggled with the idea or the temptation to seek after older men or date older men and stuff like that. So that is definitely one of the strongest things that has come, that, had came into my personhood was, oh, I need to find me an older man. I need to date older men. I need to find me a sugar daddy or something like that. Definitely, and I'm trying to be as raw as possible. Like, this is true. And then promiscuity was also a big one. Like, just because you're a homosexual person and now that your life is kind of centered around your sexuality. And I gotta be honest, like, when you are dealing with such perversions and you've been like the kind of person, like, you dealt with molestation, sexual assault and stuff like that, it creates hypersexuality. And so a lot of the times people who deal with homosexuality can be very promiscuous, or just people who've dealt with molestation in the past. Like, if you're somebody who's been molested by a man or a woman and you have either, as a result, start to grow into like same-sex attraction or hypersexuality, you start to see that really grow and grow, especially in this generation. Like, we deal with such promiscuity, we deal with such hypersexuality. And so promiscuity was something that I also struggled with. Like, I struggled with a very, very strong spirit of lust. And this was not only manifested like with pornography and masturbation, but also just in maybe day-to-day dialect that I had with other people, or just the way I saw other boys my age or older. I absolutely dealt with kind of a promiscuous cycle in high school. A good example of that would be the stories that I shared with you guys in my previous testimony video that I want you guys to go watch. That's part 1. Would be like, I have had crushes on dudes, or I've liked dudes and they have told me or expressed to me that they were closeted or that they were gay and that they were interested. And I would just head over heels in love, in obsession. I spoke about that. Just dealing with, these immense feelings of lust and wanting to be with these guys. And I recognized that it was lust because I didn't truly love them, but I definitely wanted to be in a relationship with them, hang out with them, do the deeds and stuff like that. So that is things that I thought a relationship truly was. That's all it was just casual sex, casual fiddling, playing around, stuff like that. That was something that was very heavily, a cycle that I had in high school. And then even in high school, I also dealt with females. So it was like people sitting on my lap, or me making out with this girl, this guy, this guy, this girl. I was doing all of that kind of stuff. And then there was even one time I was asked by a female if I wanted to have sex with her in one of the school closets, and I declined that offer because even though I was dealing with all of this perversion and promiscuity, I personally also, because of what happened to me in childhood, have struggled with wanting to have sex with other people. So I struggled with that. I never really wanted to have sex with people. I wanted to do like intimate stuff, perverse stuff, but sex, no, I never wanted to do that because I couldn't handle it. Like, I was still dealing with trauma and stuff like that. So I never wanted anyone to touch me. Like, I can make you feel good, I could do stuff to you, but I never wanted someone to touch me. So I struggled with not only being promiscuous, but it could only reach to a certain level. So kissing, hugging, and doing inappropriate stuff like hand jobs and stuff like that, but never actual sexual intercourse. So even in high school, going up to middle school, that didn't make sense. Middle school, going up to high school, I think that's where a lot of seeds were sown that started to emerge in high school, because in middle school, I would hear all of these stories, or just be surrounded by people who really struggle with very heavy spirits of lust, or I just would hear stories of relationships between students and teachers and all of these kind of things, and child pornography and all of that kind of stuff that was happening in my middle school. It was ghetto. Anyway, it's it sowed even worse seeds of lust in me over time that eventually grew. And I think these seeds took root and form in high school, because now that I'm starting to embrace my homosexual identity more, I've just came out to my mother, and now, I'm feeling like I'm already so rejected. I'm already so hurt, and I just wanted people to accept me for who I am. You can't tell me anything. I just was dealing with a lot of rebelliousness. I just was dealing with wanting to be free. And I felt that it was liberating to just do whatever I wanted, no matter how people felt about it. So being promiscuous wasn't a big deal to me, because only I knew if I really am a virgin or not. But I can still toy. I can still fiddle with people. I can still play with people's hearts. I can still, kiss this person, do a lap dance for that person. Like, I can still do these things, but you can't tell me nothing. Like, I just, it's very prideful. I dealt with a lot of had a really rebellious and prideful mindset. Then masochist and sadism, I don't know how you say it, like masochism and sadism. So that's like when, I think a masochist is when like a person likes being beat, and a sadist, correct me if I'm wrong, but a sadist might be a person who enjoys doing the beating. So an abusive person, a narcissistic person, a demonic spirit who likes to beat people, right? So I dealt with being exposed to that kind of personality and kind of liking and embracing that, I would say. And how I got exposed to that, I'm gonna talk about that. But I just got exposed to that kind of personality, and I kind of was embracing that a little bit. So if people wanted to slap me, hurt me, stuff like that, like it wouldn't, like it got to a point where it was like in a perverse way, like in a sexual way. If they meant in a sexual manner, it wouldn't bother me. Maybe I would embrace the choking, or maybe I would embrace the biting on my neck and just doing like inappropriate stuff, right? So masochism and just being a masochist, like that was another personality I think started to take hold and started to be deeply rooted in my identity and just the stuff I wanted to do. Like it gets really deep and demonic, because even when you like being exposed to porn, is so detrimental, because it allows you to look into all kind of perversion. So of course, when I used to watch porn, I was like, what does it look like for people to be getting spanked and hurt, and what does that look like when it's on display sexually, or what does it look like for people to just be getting things shoved into them, or all that kind of stuff. I was exposed to all of that. So like seeing that also just had really deep effects on me. Like, okay, I never personally have given any man nor woman any oral sex. Personally, I have not done that. But I would look at, when I watch pornography, I would see men and women doing that, and I would, I guess, practice with my fingers. Like I used to practice with my fingers and stuff like that. And this was way before, I got exposed to the fact that they actually have sex toys that you could practice these things on. But I used to practice with my fingers, and I used to do like promiscuous videos, and I actually posted one of those videos as a testimony on my Instagram. So I'm probably gonna have the link for that video under the description of this video. But I used to just do all that kind of stuff. So that was stuff I was exposed to. That was stuff that just was crazy, and stuff that I started to embrace and started to also perform. Then demonic effeminacy. This is a long one. When I say effeminacy, I mean like baddie culture effeminacy. Like, I mean, sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but they're doing construction outside. I mean demonic effeminacy, where baddie culture is like, okay, you have boys wearing these really long fingernails, these really long nails, really long lashes. They have weave in their hair. They're wearing makeup. They're wearing earrings. They're wearing heels and just women's clothing. Like, and then they just act super effeminate with the flipping and just the way that they talk and their mannerisms. Like, I dealt with baddie culture, and just also always being surrounded with female friends. A lot of time when you see gay men, because of rejection, because of that demonic spirit of perversion, they'll usually be surrounded by female friends that are actually encouraging them to stay in that lifestyle and continually showing them Jezebelic and demonic, effeminate behavior that these men are going, or these young men are going to start to adopt. And because when the Bible says, like, bad company corrupts good morals, that's true. The more you're around certain people, the more you start to really adopt and start to act like them and start to emulate them a little. And so you got to be mindful, like, when you're a gay man around a bunch of female women, and these female girls are like, I'm gonna stop saying female, say girls. When these girls are like, they have the Jezebel spirit, and they've also dealt with a lot in their lives, and they're just messy, and they have a lot of the baddie culture going on, and the witchcraft and all of that stuff. You start to adopt that as a gay man. You start to want to be around that, and all that demonic effeminacy start to grow on you even more. You're wearing rings, earrings, all of that kind of stuff. So for me, I never dressed like a girl. I never was dealt with that, but I definitely dealt with that demonic personality, being over effeminate and all that kind of stuff. Like, I definitely dealt with that for sure. And so it got to a point that I just dealt with such a perverse mindset that I used to also deal with envy a lot too, because I used to covet the way, I could see straight relationships, or just the way I felt so rejected because I was a boy, but I felt like a girl, and I felt like, I should be treated like a girl because I'm a homosexual person. I'm, soft at nature. My mannerisms aren't harsh and all that kind of stuff. So I'm wondering, like, why am I getting treated differently than my female friends? And the fact that I was a male, you start to get envious of that. So I think there's a lot of gay men who are actually really envious of their female friends because of these friend groups and all that stuff. It's a demonic pattern. You see Satan do this a lot with the way he tried to get you to get men grouped up with certain females or certain cliques, or just certain just demonic patterns, and making sure that they are surrounded with other people who also deal with very similar spirits or Jezebel spirits, to try to get that cycle, that demonic cycle, to continue to happen and continue to fester, and it's just leading more and more down a destructive path. And so envy was a big thing for me. And when I say Jezebel spirit, for you guys who don't know, so Jezebel was this person in the Bible, or this personality that represented rebellion, narcissism, lust, killing prophets, and so much more. Like, she represents just being a rebellious woman, like feminism, that kind of stuff. And so when I say women or men may have that spirit, they may have that same demonic personality. So not that they're Jezebel or anything like that, but they have that same demonic personality, and just that messiness, that baddie culture, that sexual immorality. That's what I mean. So when a gay man is surrounded by people who may be even worse or very similar, it starts to lead down a very destructive path. So I hope you guys are keeping up with me, because I know I'm talking about a lot of destructive things, but I just wanted to make sense. Like, these were all the different kind of perversions I was exposed to sum it up. So envy, right? I used to deal with being envious of females, had wished that I was born a female and stuff like that. I had wished that I wasn't born a man, because if I wasn't a man, then maybe I wouldn't be treated I wouldn't be treated badly. Maybe I wouldn't have been treated the way I've been treated in my life, right? Because I dealt with a lot of rejection. I dealt with a lot of physical abuse. I dealt with bullying, And so I always, like, the enemy was trying to sow the seed of doubt and lovelessness in me, where it was like, maybe if I wasn't born a man, then none of this would be happening to me. Maybe I should try to become a female instead. Maybe if I was born a female, none of this would ever happen to me. And so I dealt with wild imaginations and a desire to change myself and just be a completely different person. So when it came to transgenderism, of course, I never went through with it and stuff like that. I never dressed up as a female. I never actually embraced that fully, but it definitely were demonic seeds of that within my mind and within my soul. Like, I will look up, how much does sex change surgery cost? Like, I will look these things up as a child. How much does, I was very young at the time, how much does sex work and sex change surgery cost? Like, how much does it cost to actually change into a woman and to get breasts and to get a vagina and all that kind of stuff? Like, what does that look like? Is it painless? Like, I would ask and look up all these kind of questions because I was genuinely invested in seeing if maybe I should turn into a woman, because I truly believe it doesn't just start at homosexuality. I think the enemy's plan is to eventually get homosexuals to turn into women. Like, if you're a man, he wants you to not only become effeminate and you just get all, and you're rebellious in nature, because homosexuality and laying with another man is actually an abomination, but also for some it starts to lead into other destructive paths, and even worse, it starts to lead into other demonic spirits. Like, a homosexual man could be dealing with pedophilia, and so he's liking and molesting younger boys, or he goes into a transgender type of persona, and he's starting to want to become a woman and dress as a woman, or he's dealing with hypersexuality, and he's just sleeping with every man and stuff like that, or vice versa. Even if you're a lesbian and you're attracted to younger girls and all of the same, right? So it's like it gets worse. It doesn't just end at the attraction. It gets worse and it builds up over time. I heard this quote from Jenny Weaver. She said, the pornography of today is the pedophilia of tomorrow. It is a brainwashing system, just like homosexuality and the perversion that people are exposed to young. It is a brainwashing system. So keep that in mind. Like, this stuff is detrimental. And I know I've been speaking really quickly. If you guys ever have to take a pause or look back on something I'm saying, I'm sorry. I hope that I'm being as concise as I can and, trying to get my words out and not stutter. But these are just some great examples. And so when we talk about, like, people having demonic friendships, there are demonic spirits or personas that people are dealing with that the enemy would try to get people together, or you get introduced to this friend group and stuff like that, and they just are harboring all of this evil, or they themselves are not Christian and stuff like that, and they start to lead you astray even more. And so it's like unclean spirits and other people are attracted. So demons and other people are attracted to demons in you, and vice versa. You're attracted to the demons in them, and you guys become friends, or you guys start dating, or you guys eventually get married, and all of this kind of stuff. So you have to be very aware of familiar spirits and just people and familiarity in people and just seeking comfort and stuff like that, because the enemy will try to invest in making sure that he puts a stumbling block in your way when you're trying to get delivered, or he puts stumbling blocks in your way or people in your path that, if you're already dealing with perversion, they are going to try to lead you to destruction. Seriously. So this is like a demonic pattern that you see a lot today, where you just have a godly woman, or you have a woman who's just an amazing woman, right? And she loves the Lord, but she gets introduced to a man, or she's in love with this guy, and they eventually get married, but he's abusive. He's hateful. He deals with a Jezebel, or he just deals with an evil spirit. And he eventually derails her. He can derail her, or even destroy her destiny, or destroy her path. Imagine that, but with friendships. It gets really, really bad when you're introduced to the wrong people. Okay, this battery's about to go dead. Let me change it real quick.